More than 122,000 Missourians have dementia, according to the Alzheimer's Association, and each patient represents a family trying to navigate how to care for them.
Our Missouri Capitol reporter Hannah Falcon explains how a new Missouri law hopes to make things easier for dementia caregivers.
At times, I felt lost.
There's no roadmap to caring for an aging parent. That's what Josie Palikathayo learned while caring for his father with dementia before he passed away in 2021.
It was hard becoming a parent to my parent.
Governor Mike Kehoe signed a new law to create a one-stop shop for dementia caregivers to find resources like respite services, medical equipment, and educational materials.
There are a lot of resources out there, but often I think caregivers and loved ones are confused as to where to start.
So really it brings about this larger coordination of services into what we call a more of a no wrong door system, to where it doesn't matter where you go or who you ask, you get a consistent kind of landscape of services and responses.
Missouri's Director of Senior and Disability Services, Melanie Highland, tells me the program needs funding, something hard to come by in Missouri lately.
Unfortunately, one of the areas that we did experience a reduction this past year is in our Missouri Caregiver Support Program that provides some of that respite.
To start this program, lawmakers will have to allocate funding next fiscal year. Records from the state legislature show the new law will cost about $74,000 a year, most of that in salary and benefits for the person hired to run the program. DHSS says it would then take about 1 year for Missourians to start seeing a difference.
This is not an easy journey.
Reporting in Jefferson City, I'm Hannah Falcon.